The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest structure ever built by any species in the known universe. Its walls stretched so high that clouds formed near the ceiling. Light from 3 different suns came through windows made of crystal that had taken 1,000 years to grow. Representatives from 412 species sat in their designated areas, each section designed to match their home world's atmosphere and gravity. Admiral stood in the center of this hall, his dress uniform crisp and white against the dark metal floor. He was 53 years old, with gray hair cut short and a face that had seen too many battles. Beside him stood Ambassador, a woman of 40 with calm eyes that hid the fear she felt inside. They were the only 2 humans in the room. They were also the last hope for their entire species. The High Speaker rose from his seat at the top of the chamber. His name was, and he was tall and thin like all his kind. His skin was pale blue, and his 4 eyes blinked one at a time as he looked down at the humans. The had ruled the Galactic Council for 6,000 years. Their word was law. "We have reached a decision," said. His voice was soft but carried through the entire hall. "The species known as humans have been judged. They are found guilty." Felt his hands form into fists, but he kept his face calm. He had been a soldier for 30 years. He knew how to hide his emotions. "Guilty of what crime?" asked. Her voice was steady. "We have done nothing wrong." A rumble of sounds came from the gathered species. Some laughed. Others made noises of anger. The High Speaker raised one long hand and silence fell again. "Your crime is your nature," said. "In the 200 years since your species was discovered, you have spread across 17 star systems. You have built weapons that concern us. You have shown a capacity for violence that exceeds acceptable levels. You breed too quickly. You adapt too fast. You are dangerous." "We have followed every law," said. "We have fought only in self-defense. We have shared our technology. We have been good members of this council." "And yet," continued, "our projections show that within 500 years, humans will outnumber the next 3 species combined. Your military strength grows each decade. You do not know your place." Stepped forward. "You fear what we might become, not what we are." "Fear is wisdom when facing a threat," replied. "This council has voted. 391 species agree. Humanity is to be exiled." The word hit like a physical blow. Exiled. It was the worst punishment the council could give. It meant being cast out from known space. It meant losing everything. "You cannot do this," said. "We have done nothing to deserve this." "The vote is complete. Your fleet will be reduced to transport vessels only. All weapons will be removed. All military technology will be erased. You will be given 1 standard year to gather your population from your worlds. Then you will leave." "Leave to where?" demanded. 4 eyes showed no emotion. "The dead zones, beyond the edge of mapped space. You will go there and you will never return. Any human found in council space after the exile period will be executed. This is the law now." Looked around the hall. He saw species he had fought beside, species he had traded with, species he had called friends. None of them would meet his eyes. None of them would speak for humanity. "The dead zones are called dead for a reason," said. "You are sentencing us to extinction." "That is not our concern," said. "You have 1 year, use it wisely." The guards came then. They were massive creatures with 4 arms and skin like stone. They surrounded and began to lead them from the hall, looked back one last time at the gathered council. He burned their faces into his memory, every single one. "We will remember this," he said quietly. "Humanity will remember." The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks, and traveled on an escort ship, watched at all times by guards. They were not allowed to communicate with anyone. They sat in a small room with gray walls and waited. "They planned this for a long time," said on the 5th day. "This was not a sudden decision." Nodded. "I suspected something was wrong when they started limiting our expansion rights. Then the weapons inspections became more frequent. Then the trade restrictions. They were building a case against us, waiting for the right moment. The right moment was when we became too strong to ignore but not strong enough to fight back. Closed his eyes. I should have seen it coming. No one could have seen this. We trusted them. That was our mistake. When they reached Earth, the news had already spread. Every human colony knew what was happening. Some called for war. Some called for surrender. Most simply did not know what to do, and went directly to the United Earth Council, where the leaders of humanity waited for them. General Wu was there. He was 60 years old and had commanded Earth's defense fleet for 20 years. His face was hard with anger. They cannot do this. We should fight. Fight 400 species, asked. With what? They will take our weapons before we can use them. Then we die with honor. No, sat down at the table. We survive. That is what humans do. We survive. Scientists stood near the window, looking up at the night sky. She was young, only 32, but she was the person in the room. The dead zones. What do we actually know about them? Nothing, Wu said. That is why they are called dead. No one goes there, no one comes back. But someone must have explored them at some point. There must be data. Pulled up the files on the central screen. The sent probes there about 4,000 years ago. They found no habitable planets, no resources worth taking, high radiation in some areas, unstable space in others. They marked it as worthless and never returned. Studied the data. 4,000 years ago, their technology was different then. Their probes were limited. What are you thinking? Asked. I am thinking that the galaxy is very large, and the dead zones are very big. The probes covered maybe 1% of that space, maybe less. There could be things out there they never found. Wu shook his head. You are grasping at hope. Hope is all we have, replied, and humans have built empires on less. The year moved quickly. Every day brought new challenges. They sent inspectors to every human world. They took every weapon. Every warship was torn apart. Every military base was destroyed. They erased databases and burned research centers. They wanted humanity to have nothing. But humans were clever. In secret, engineers hid backup drives in places the inspectors never looked. Scientists memorized formulas and designs rather than writing them down. Small components were scattered across thousands of ships, looking like spare parts. They were thorough, but they did not understand human creativity. Oversaw the evacuation. 12 billion humans had to be moved onto transport ships. Entire cities were abandoned. Farms and factories and homes were left behind. People took only what they could carry. Many cried as they boarded the ships. They were leaving everything they knew. How many ships do we have? Asked Wu. 8,000 transport vessels. Enough to carry everyone but barely. Conditions will be crowded. And supplies. Food for 2 years. Water recyclers that should last longer. Medical supplies are limited. We will have to be careful. Join them on the command deck of the lead ship. The last evacuees are boarding now. We are ready to leave. Looked at Earth through the viewing window. The planet was blue and green and beautiful. His grandfather had been born there. His father had been born there. He had been born there. And now no human would ever see it again. Send the signal, he said. We go to the dead zones. The fleet moved slowly at first. 8,000 ships filled with frightened people heading into the unknown. Warships surrounded them, making sure they followed the correct path. For 3 months the aliens watched them. Then, at the edge of known space, they stopped. This is where we leave you, the commander said over the communication channel. Beyond this point, you are no longer our concern. You are no longer anything. Did not respond. He simply ordered the fleet forward. The dead zones were dark. The stars here were old and red. Some had died long ago and were now just cold rocks floating in the void. Space itself felt different here. Heavy, tired. Understood why they had not bothered with this place. It felt like death. For weeks the fleet searched for a habitable world. They found nothing but rock and ice and radiation. People began to lose hope. Some ships reported fights breaking out. Others reported people giving up completely. Morale was falling fast. Then called to her ship. "I found something," she said. Her eyes were bright with excitement. "Look at this." She showed him the scanner readings. They had found a planet. It was hidden behind a dead star in a place the old probes had never looked. The planet was small, but it had an atmosphere. It had water. It had land. "Can we live there?" asked. "We can try, but that is not the important part." Switched to a different display. "Look at what is in the ground." Looked, he did not understand the readings at first. Then his eyes went wide. "That is impossible." "It is not impossible. It is real. This planet has more ore than all of Council space combined. There is also, and pure quantum crystals, and at least 3 other minerals that the galaxy considers rare. The Council does not know about this." "No, they never looked. They wrote off this entire area as worthless," smiled. "They made a mistake." Felt something he had not felt in a long time. Hope, real hope. "If we can mine this," he said slowly, "we can build again. We can build better than before." "We can build things they cannot imagine," agreed. "We have engineers, scientists, entire databases of knowledge we managed to hide, and now we have resources they do not even know exist." Looked out at the dark sky of the dead zones. He thought about and the Galactic Council. He thought about every species that had voted to exile humanity. They thought they had sentenced humans to death. They thought they would never see humans again. They were wrong. "Tell no one outside this room," ordered. "We will land on this planet, we will call it Haven, and we will begin to build, quietly, secretly. We will make ourselves strong again." "And then?" asked. His eyes were hard. "And then we wait. The galaxy forgot about us. Someday they will remember, and when that day comes we will be ready." The first ships landed on Haven the next day. Humans stepped onto alien soil and looked up at unfamiliar stars. They were tired and scared and far from home, but they were alive. And as watched them begin to build their first shelters, he knew that this was not the end of humanity's story. It was only the beginning. 50 years had passed since the exile. 50 years since humanity had been thrown into the darkness of the dead zones. 50 years since the galaxy had forgotten them. General Wu stood on the observation platform of Haven's largest city and looked out at what his people had built. The city stretched across the valley floor, a mix of tall buildings and green parks and busy streets. Lights glowed in the evening darkness. Ships moved through the sky above. Over 3 billion humans now lived on this planet alone. He was old now, past 100, but human medicine had advanced far in the past decades. He moved slowly, but his mind was still sharp. Sharp enough to remember everything. Sharp enough to remember the shame of being cast out. Sharp enough to remember the faces of those who had voted against humanity. Walked up beside him. She was in her 80s now, but still working every day. Her hair was white, but her eyes were the same as they had been 50 years ago, full of curiosity, full of plans. "The new drive tests were successful," she said. "We achieved stable travel at speeds the Council never thought possible." "How much faster?" 3 times faster than their best ships, and ours use half the fuel." Wu nodded slowly. "And the weapon systems?" "The plasma arrays are ready. The shield generators exceed all expectations. The new fleet will be unlike anything the galaxy has seen." Wu was quiet for a moment. Then he asked the question that had been on his mind for years. "Is it enough?" "Enough for what?" "To go back to take revenge." Shook her head. "Not yet. We are strong, but they are many. 400 species, remember. We need more time, more ships, more people. I may not live to see it." "Then you must trust that others will continue the work." Put her hand on his arm. Admiral trusted us. Ambassador trusted us. They are gone now, but their vision lives on. We are building something greater than any of us, something that will last. Wu turned away from the view. Show me the new mining operations. They took a transport ship to the northern continent, where the largest mines were located. The operations here had grown massive over the decades. Machines the size of buildings dug into the earth, pulling out ore that the council considered priceless. In council space, a single gram of could buy a starship. Here, it was so common they used it to pave roads. Production is up 12% this quarter, the mine supervisor reported. His name was, and he was young and eager. We discovered a new vein last month. It goes deeper than anything we have found before. And the other mines, Wu asked, the ones on the outer planets? All running at full capacity. We have stockpiles that would make the weep. Wu almost smiled at that, almost. They visited the shipyards next. These were hidden inside a hollowed-out moon, invisible to any outside observers. Inside, thousands of workers assembled the new human fleet. The ships were beautiful and deadly, sleek black hulls, weapons that could cut through any shield, engines that made council technology look ancient. How many operational ships do we have now? Wu asked. The shipyard commander, a woman named Myra, checked her display. 2,000 combat vessels, another 500 in final assembly, plus our transport fleet and support ships. The council had millions of ships when they exiled us. They did, but their ships have not improved in centuries. They saw no need. They have no enemies to push them forward. Myra's eyes gleamed. We have enemies. We have pushed ourselves very far indeed. After the shipyard, they visited the academy where the next generation of human officers were trained. Young men and women in sharp uniforms marched across training grounds. They studied tactics and engineering and diplomacy. They learned the history of the exile and the names of those who had ordered it. The academy commander, Captain Park, showed them the class of recruits. These young people were born here. They have never seen Earth. They have never known anything but the dead zones, but they understand what was done to us. They understand what we must become. Wu watched a group of cadets running through combat simulations. They were fast and precise and ruthless. They had been raised with one purpose, to make humanity strong enough to never be cast out again. Do they hate the council? Wu asked. Some do, some simply want to prove that we are worthy, that the council was wrong about us. Park paused. Is there a difference? Perhaps not. That night, Wu called a meeting of the Human High Council. This was the governing body that had replaced the old United Earth Council. It was made up of the best and from every human colony. They met in a secure chamber deep underground, where no signal could escape. Presented the scientific reports. Their technology now exceeded council standards in almost every area. Their medicine was better. Their computers were faster. Their ships were stronger. The dead zones had given them resources the council could only dream of, and human creativity had turned those resources into power. We have also established contact with other exiled species, said Counselor. He was the head of intelligence, a quiet man who knew secrets no one else did. There are more than we thought. How many? Wu asked. 17 species that we have confirmed, possibly more. The council has been exiling anyone they consider a threat for thousands of years. Most did not survive, but some did. They are scattered across the dead zones, hiding like us. Have we approached them? Carefully, some are suspicious. They have been alone for a long time, but a few have shown interest in talking. Wu considered this. If we could unite the exiled species, we would be stronger. Much stronger. They, for example, were great warriors before their exile. They still have ships and soldiers. They were scientists. They have knowledge we could use. Together, we could be a force that even the council would fear. Begin negotiations. Offer them whatever they need: food, medicine, technology, but be careful, we do not know if we can trust them yet." Understood. The meeting continued for hours. They discussed expansion plans and resource allocation and 100 other details. But the real topic, the one that sat beneath every conversation, was the same as always. When would they be ready? When would they go back? No one had an answer yet, but every day they got closer. Months later, a discovery changed everything. A scout ship exploring the far edge of the dead zones found something strange. A signal, very old, very faint, coming from a region of space that should have been empty. Captain commanded the mission to investigate. He was young for a captain, only 35, but he had proven himself in dozens of exploration missions. His ship, the Silent Wind, was one of the fastest in the fleet. "The signal is definitely artificial," his sensor officer reported. "But the language is unknown. It does not match any council species." "Could it be one of the other exiled races?" asked. "No, this is older, much older, maybe millions of years old." They followed the signal for 3 days. It led them to a dead system with a single planet. The planet was barren rock, no atmosphere, no life. But on the surface, they found the source of the signal. It was a structure, massive, ancient, built from materials that their sensors could not identify. It looked like a temple or a library or both, and it was still working even after millions of years. Took a team down to investigate. They wore full environment suits and carried weapons, though they did not expect to need them. The structure was clearly abandoned. Nothing had lived here for a very long time. Inside, they found records, thousands of them, stored in crystal blocks that glowed with soft light. Did not understand the writing, but the images were clear enough. They showed a species that had once ruled this entire region of space, a great civilization that had built wonders beyond imagining. "What happened to them?" one of his team asked. Found the answer in the deeper chambers. More images. These showed war, destruction. An enemy coming from somewhere else, somewhere outside the galaxy. The great civilization had fought. They had lost. They had hidden their knowledge here, hoping someone would find it someday. "They left this for whoever came after them," said quietly. "A gift, a warning." He reported his findings to Haven. Within days, arrived with a team of the best scientists humanity had. They spent months studying the records. What they found changed everything. "This is technology thousands of years ahead of the Council," reported to the High Council. "Power systems, weapons, shield designs, medical knowledge. It would take us centuries to understand all of it." "Can we use it?" Wu asked. "Some of it, yes. Already we have improved our shield generators using their designs. Our weapons will be twice as powerful within a year, and there is more, much more." "What about the enemy they fought, the ones who destroyed them?" His face grew serious. "The records suggest they came from outside our galaxy, a species that consumes. They sweep through regions of space, taking everything, then move on. The records call them the Void Walkers." "Are they still out there?" "We do not know. The records are millions of years old. They could be gone, or they could return." The room was silent. This was bigger than revenge against the Council. This was bigger than humanity's survival. This was about the entire galaxy. Wu stood slowly. His old bones ached, but his voice was strong. "We continue as planned. We build our strength. We unite the exiled species, and we watch for these Void Walkers." He paused. "The Council exiled us to die in the darkness. Instead, we found treasures they cannot imagine. Perhaps one day they will need us, and when that day comes, we will decide if they deserve our help." The Council voted unanimously to continue. Work accelerated across all human colonies. New ships were built faster than ever. Scientists worked day and night to understand the ancient technology. Diplomatic teams reached out to more exiled species. On Haven, A memorial was built for Admiral and Ambassador and all the others who had died during the long years of exile. Young humans visited it every day, reading the names, remembering the history. They had been born in darkness, but they would not stay there forever. Often came to the memorial alone, late at night. She would stand before's name and speak to him as if he could hear. "We are doing what you asked," she would say. "We are building, we are growing, we are becoming something the galaxy has never seen. The Council thought they destroyed us, they created us." Above her, the strange stars of the dead zones burned in colors the citizens of Council space had never seen. Somewhere out there, other exiled species were starting to gather. Somewhere out there, ancient enemies might be waiting. And here in the place the galaxy had thrown away, humanity was rising. General Wu died 3 years later. He was 106 years old. His final words were spoken to, who held his hand as he passed. "Tell me," he whispered, "are we ready?" Thought of the fleet hidden in the moon, the technology flowing from the ancient library, the alliances forming in the darkness. She thought of everything they had built from nothing. "Almost," she said, "almost." Wu smiled. It was the first real smile she had seen on his face in 50 years. "Good," he said, "good." And then he was gone. They buried him on Haven, in the soil of the world humans had made their own. His grave looked out over the city he had helped build. On his headstone, they carved the words he had spoken many times during his long life. "We will remember, we will return." Across the dead zones, in hidden bases and secret shipyards, on worlds the Council did not know existed, humanity continued to grow. They were patient. They were determined. They were no longer the frightened exiles who had been cast out 50 years ago. They were something new, something stronger. And one day, the galaxy would see what they had become. 100 years after the exile, humanity had spread across 200 worlds. The dead zones, once thought to be empty and worthless, had become home to over 50 billion humans, and the galaxy had no idea. Captain was now Admiral. His hair was gray and his face was lined, but his mind was sharper than ever. He commanded the first Shadow Fleet, the most powerful military force humanity had ever created. 3,000 warships, each one capable of destroying anything the Council could send against it. They moved through space like ghosts, invisible to every sensor the Council possessed. But its most important work was not military, it was trade. He sat in his quarters aboard the flagship, reviewing reports from across the network. The network was humanity's greatest secret weapon. It was a web of hidden stations and smuggler routes and black market connections that stretched from the dead zones all the way into the heart of Council space. Through this network, humanity gathered information, resources, and allies. A knock came at his door. "Enter," he said. Sara walked in. She was 60 years old now, but she moved with the energy of someone half her age. She had been running the network's trading operations for 30 years. There was not a smuggler or black marketeer in the galaxy who did not know her name, though they did not know she was human. To them, she was simply the ghost. "We have a problem," she said. "Put down his reports, tell me." One of our supply stations in the Outer Rim was discovered. A patrol ship stumbled across it by accident. Were there survivors? From the patrol? No. Our defense systems destroyed them before they could send a message, but we had to abandon the station. That is the third one we have lost this year. Frowned, the Council is increasing their patrols. Why? I do not know, but I have heard whispers. Some of the alien traders talk about strange things happening in Council space, ships disappearing, signals from nowhere, resources going missing. She sat down across from him. I think they are starting to notice us. After 100 years. We have grown large. It is hard to hide 50 billion people forever. Stood and walked to the window. Outside, the endless darkness of space stretched in all directions. Somewhere out there, the council went about their business believing humanity was dead, but cracks were appearing. Questions were being asked. "Call a meeting of the network captains," he said. "We need to be more careful and increase our intelligence gathering. I want to know exactly what the council knows." The network was vast and complex. It had taken decades to build. In the early years after the exile, humanity had survived by staying hidden. They had built their colonies in places no one would look. They had kept their heads down and focused on growing stronger. But eventually, they needed things they could not make themselves: medicine, rare elements, technology from outside their borders. That was when the trading had begun. At first, it was simple. Human agents would disguise themselves as other species and buy what they needed at black market stations. The disguises were good. Human scientists had developed technology that could change a person's appearance completely, make them look like or any of 100 other species. The galaxy was full of different races. One more face in the crowd meant nothing. But simple trading was not enough. Humanity needed more. They needed connections. They needed influence. So they started building the network. Sara had been one of the first network builders. She had been 25 years old, fresh from the academy, when she was given her assignment: go into council space, establish contacts, build a trading empire that no one would know belonged to humans. She had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. Now, the network had agents on over 300 worlds. They ran businesses and shipping companies and information brokers. They bribed officials and made deals with criminals and gathered secrets like others gathered gold. And all of it flowed back to the dead zones. All of it made humanity stronger. The meeting of the network captains took place on a station hidden inside an asteroid field. 12 people attended, each one commanding a different section of the network. They came from different backgrounds. Some had been traders before the exile. Others had been soldiers or scientists or diplomats. But they all shared one thing: they were very good at pretending to be something they were not. Laid out the situation. The council was getting suspicious. Patrols were increasing. They needed to be more careful. "Perhaps it is time to pull back," said Captain. He was in charge of the northern sector, the region closest to space. "We have gathered enough resources. We could disappear for a few decades, let things calm down." "No," said Sara. "If we disappear now, it will confirm their suspicions. They will look for us. We must continue as normal but be smarter about it." "She is right," agreed Captain. She ran the intelligence division, gathering information from across the galaxy. "The council does not know about us specifically. They just know something strange is happening. If we act guilty, they will find us." "What do you suggest?" asked. Pulled up a display showing council space. "We shift our operations, move away from the areas with increased patrols, focus on the outer rim where oversight is weaker, and we start using more intermediaries, more layers between us and the actual trades." "That will slow things down," objected. "Speed means nothing if we are caught." The discussion continued for hours. In the end, they agreed on a plan. The network would become more careful, more hidden. They would sacrifice some efficiency for safety, and they would wait. But waiting was hard. Across the hidden colonies, a new generation was coming of age. They had been born in the dead zones. They had never known anything but exile, and they were growing impatient. On Haven, a young officer named was making waves. He was 28 years old, brilliant and ambitious. He had graduated top of his class from the academy and had risen quickly through the ranks. Now he was a commander, in charge of a squadron of the warships. He was also dangerous. "We are wasting time," said at a council meeting. "Every year we wait, the council grows stronger. We should strike now while we still have the advantage." Admiral attending via hologram shook his head. "We are not ready. Our fleet is strong, but the council has numbers we cannot match. A direct war would destroy us." "Then we do not fight directly. We use our technology, our speed. We hit them where they are weak and disappear before they can respond. Guerrilla tactics, said Counselor. She was very old now, kept alive by the advanced medicine humanity had developed. Her mind was still the sharpest in the room. It could work for a time, but eventually they would find us. They would come for our hidden worlds, and then we would have nothing. So we do nothing, demanded. We just hide forever. We prepare, said calmly. We grow stronger, we wait for the right moment. The right moment may never come. Then we make it come, but not yet, not until we are certain we can win. Was not satisfied, but he accepted the council's decision, for now. In the shadows, though, he began to gather supporters, young officers who shared his impatience, scientists who wanted to test their weapons against real targets, citizens who were tired of living in hiding. Sara learned of this gathering through her network. She reported it too. He is young and angry, she said. I understand why, but he could ruin everything if he is not careful. What do you suggest? Give him something to do, send him on a mission. Something dangerous enough to satisfy his need for action, but controlled enough that it cannot expose us. Consider this. There is something. They are building a new sensor station on the edge of the dead zones. If they finish it, they might detect our outer colonies. Perfect, send to destroy it. Let him feel useful. The mission was approved, and his squadron were sent to eliminate the sensor station. It was a surgical strike, in and out before anyone knew they were there. But something went wrong. They had anticipated trouble. They had hidden a defense fleet near the station, waiting. When squadron arrived, they found themselves outnumbered 3-1. Any normal commander would have retreated, was not normal. He ordered his ships to attack. His squadron was outnumbered, but their technology was far superior. Human weapons cut through shields like they were not there. Human ships moved so fast they could barely track them. In 40 minutes, the battle was over. 23 warships destroyed, the sensor station reduced to scrap, and not a single human ship lost. Returned to Haven as a hero. The young generation celebrated him. Even some of the older officers had to admit that the mission had been a success. But was worried. He exposed our capabilities, he told Sara. They now know that someone out there has technology they cannot match. They will investigate. Maybe, but they have no evidence it was humans. We were supposed to be dead 100 years ago. They will look for other explanations first. And if they do not find any. Sara was quiet for a moment. Then perhaps it is time to prepare for what comes next. In space, the destruction of the sensor station caused chaos. The High Council demanded answers. How had 23 warships been destroyed so quickly? Who had technology so advanced? Investigator was assigned to find the truth. He was old for nearly 500 years, and he had solved mysteries that others thought impossible. He gathered every piece of evidence from the battle site. He interviewed survivors from nearby stations. He analyzed every signal, every fragment, every trace of energy. What he found disturbed him. The weapons used do not match any known species, he reported to the High Council. The ship movements were faster than anything we have recorded, and the attack pattern, he paused. The attack pattern showed no hesitation, no fear. Whoever did this knew they would win. Who are they? Demanded High Speaker Taileyes, who had replaced decades ago. I do not know, but there is something else. I have been looking at other reports from the past century. Missing resources, unexplained signals, ships that disappear without trace. There is a pattern. Someone has been operating in our space for a very long time, and we never noticed. Find them, Taileyes ordered. Whatever it takes, find them. Began his investigation. He followed threads that led across the galaxy. He questioned traders and officials and smugglers. Slowly, piece by piece, he began to see the shape of something vast hiding in the shadows. He was getting closer to the truth. And in the dead zones, humanity was getting ready for the day he would find it. Ordered the Shadow Fleet to full alert. New defenses were built around every hidden colony. The network went deeper underground, and across 200 worlds, 50 billion humans prepared for war. They had spent 100 years building their secret empire. Now, the time was coming to show the galaxy what they had created. Ancient and frail but still brilliant, spoke at the memorial for Admiral one last time. "We have done what you asked," she said to the stone that bore his name. "We have built an empire the cosmos never realized. The Council thought they killed us. They only made us stronger." She looked up at the strange stars of the dead zones. "They will come for us soon, and when they do, they will learn what happens when you underestimate humanity." Somewhere in Council space was one step closer to the truth. Somewhere in the shadows, the human network was preparing for what came next. And somewhere in the darkness, something else was watching, something old, something hungry. The Void Walkers had not been seen in millions of years, but ancient things do not die, they only wait. The galaxy was about to change forever. Investigator had been searching for 3 years. 3 years of following whispers and shadows. 3 years of dead ends and false leads. 3 years of growing certainty that something massive was hiding from the galaxy. He sat in his office on Prime, surrounded by screens showing data from across known space, every strange occurrence, every unexplained signal, every missing ship. He had mapped them all, and the pattern was clear. Someone was watching the Council. Someone was trading in their markets and stealing their resources and moving through their space like ghosts. Someone had built an invisible empire right under their noses. And today, he finally had proof. A trader had been captured on a station in the Outer Rim. The trader had been running illegal goods for decades, but this time he had made a mistake. He had been caught with technology that should not exist, shields that could block weapons, engines that were impossibly efficient. The trader had tried to claim he found them floating in space. No one believed him. Had traveled to the station himself to conduct the interrogation. "Who do you work for?" he asked. His 4 eyes studied the trader carefully. The trader was a short species with gray skin and large eyes. They were supposed to have gone extinct 500 years ago, yet here one was. "I work for myself," the trader said. "These goods came from somewhere. This technology did not appear from nothing. I trade with many people. I do not ask where things come from." Leaned forward. "Your species was exiled to the dead zone centuries ago. The Council declared you extinct, yet you are alive. You have been living out there in the darkness this entire time." The trader said nothing. "You are not alone, are you? There are others, other exiled species, maybe many of them." Paused, "maybe even the humans." Something flickered in the trader's eyes, just for a moment, but saw it. "The humans are dead," the trader said. "Everyone knows this." "Do they, or did they simply want us to believe that?" Left the interrogation room with new questions burning in his mind. He returned to his office and pulled up everything he had on the human exile. The records were sparse. 120 years ago, humanity had been cast out. They had been given minimal supplies and sent into the dead zones. Every projection said they would be dead within a decade. But projections could be wrong. He started looking at the pattern again. The strange signals, the missing resources, the impossible technology. If humans had survived, if they had been growing in the darkness all this time, everything would make sense. He contacted the High Council immediately. High Speaker Taelize listened to his report with growing concern. "You believe the humans survived?" "I believe it is possible, more than possible. The evidence suggests a large organization operating in our space for many decades, an organization with technology superior to our own. If not humans, then something very like them." "What do you suggest?" "Send a probe into the dead zones. a small one designed for stealth. Let us see what is actually out there. Tail Eyes agreed. The probe was sent. In the dead zones, human sensors detected it immediately. Commander was the first to respond. His squadron intercepted the probe before it could transmit any useful data. They destroyed it completely, leaving nothing but scattered atoms. But the damage was done. The probe had sent one signal before its destruction, a single burst of data showing ships, many ships, more ships than should exist in the dead zones. Studied the data for hours. The image was blurry, corrupted, barely useful, but he could see enough. Those were not random ships. That was a fleet, an organized military force. They are out there, he told Tail Eyes, and they are preparing for something. War. Perhaps, or perhaps they are simply waiting. Either way, we need to know more. Tail Eyes called an emergency session of the full Galactic Council. 412 species gathered once again in the Great Hall, the same hall where humanity had been exiled over a century ago. We have evidence of a threat in the dead zones, Tail Eyes announced. A organized force with advanced technology. We believe it may be connected to the humans we exiled 120 years ago. Murmurs filled the hall. The humans were supposed to be dead. This was impossible. What threat can they pose? Asked the representative. Even if they survived, they cannot match the combined might of the Council. Their technology appears to exceed our own, explained. The weapons used to destroy our sensor station 3 years ago were unlike anything we have recorded. If they have been advancing in secret all this time, then they have had 120 years to prepare, Tail Eyes finished. We do not know how strong they have become. The council debated for days. Some wanted to send a massive fleet into the dead zones and destroy whatever was there. Others wanted to send diplomats and try to make peace. Others still wanted to ignore the threat and hope it went away. In the end, they chose a middle path. A small fleet would be sent to investigate. 50 ships, enough to defend themselves, but not so many as to seem like an invasion. Admiral was chosen to lead the expedition. He was old and experienced and had fought in dozens of campaigns. He did not expect trouble from whatever ragged survivors might be hiding in the dead zones. He was wrong. In the Hidden Empire, as humans had begun to call their territory, the Council's decision was known almost immediately. Human spies had infiltrated every level of galactic government. They knew the fleet was coming before it had even launched. Admiral called a council of war. 50 ships, he reported. Standard configuration. They will enter the dead zones through the passage in approximately 6 weeks. 50 ships is nothing, said. We could destroy them easily. Destroying them is not the question, said Counselor Sora. The question is what happens next. If we destroy a council fleet, they will know we are here. They will send a larger force, and then a larger one. We cannot fight the entire galaxy. Then what do you suggest? Let them find us. We guide them, show them only what we want them to see. Sora pulled up a map of the dead zones. The passage leads to this region. It is mostly empty. A few dead planets, some asteroids, nothing valuable. We let them explore this area. We let them find nothing. Then they go home and report that the dead zones are still dead. And if they go further, if they find our colonies, then we stop them, but gently. We make it look like natural hazards, radiation storms, unstable space. We scare them off without revealing ourselves. The plan was approved. Human ships moved to intercept the Council fleet, but not to attack, to watch, to guide, to ensure the invaders saw only emptiness. Admiral led his fleet through the passage and into the dead zones. He expected darkness and danger. He found exactly that. The space here was strange. Stars were rare and dim. Nebulae blocked sensors and communications. His ships had to move slowly, carefully, or risk hitting debris or wandering into radiation zones. Scan for any signs of habitation, he ordered. Nothing so far, his sensor officer reported. Just rock and dust and empty space. They searched for 2 weeks. They found nothing. No colonies, no ships, no signs of life at all. The dead zones were as empty as the ancient reports had claimed. Was beginning to think the whole mission was a waste of time. Then they encountered the storm. It came out of nowhere, a massive wave of radiation and energy that swept across their position. Warning alarms screamed. Shields flickered. 3 ships were destroyed instantly. The rest scattered, trying to escape the deadly wave. "What is this?" demanded. "Unknown energy signature. Unlike anything in our records, it appears to be natural, but..." "But what?" The officer hesitated. "It is almost too perfect, like it was designed to hit exactly where we were." Considered this. A natural phenomenon that targeted his fleet precisely. That seemed unlikely, but what else could it be? There were no enemy ships on their sensors, no weapons fire, just energy from apparently nowhere. The fleet regrouped. 8 ships had been lost, the rest were damaged, made a decision. "We returned to Council space. This place is too dangerous." His officers did not argue. They had seen enough of the dead zones. The surviving ships limped back through the passage. Behind them, invisible to all sensors, human ships watched them go. Observed from the bridge of his flagship. The energy projector worked perfectly. They have no idea it was a weapon. Nodded. "They will go home and report that the dead zones are deadly. Perhaps they will not come back. And if they do, then we will be ready." Returned to Prime with his report. The dead zones were empty but extremely dangerous. Natural hazards made exploration nearly impossible. He had found no evidence of human survival. Whatever had been detected by the probe was gone now, if it had ever existed. Was not convinced. "An energy wave that appears from nowhere and strikes your fleet precisely?" he asked. "That does not sound natural to me." "What else could it be?" demanded. "There were no ships, no stations, nothing. Nothing that you could see." The council debated again. Some believed his report. The dead zones were simply too hostile for anyone to live there. Whatever signals they had detected must have come from something else. Perhaps automated probes, perhaps echoes from some ancient disaster. Others believed the truth was being hidden. Someone had tricked the fleet. Someone was out there, watching and waiting. "Send another expedition," urged. "A larger one with better sensors." "And lose more ships to the hazards." Taileyes shook his head. "We cannot afford to waste resources on ghosts." "These ghosts destroyed 23 of our ships at the sensor station. These ghosts have been operating in our space for decades. They are real, high speaker, and they are dangerous." Taileyes considered for a long moment. "Very well, we will send another expedition, but you will lead it, take 100 ships, find the truth, and bring it back to us." Accepted the mission. He began preparing immediately. This time, he would not be fooled by energy storms or empty space. This time, he would find what was hiding in the darkness. In the hidden empire, human intelligence reported its new mission within hours. 100 ships said, "He is serious this time." "He is getting too close," Sara warned. "Our network reports that he has been questioning traders across the galaxy. He knows about the exiled species. He suspects we are alive." "Can we stop him?" "Perhaps, but it would require direct action. An assassination. The risk of exposure would be high." "Spoke up, or we could let him come. Let him see everything, and then make sure he never leaves." "That would mean war," said. "War is coming regardless. We cannot hide forever. The Council will keep sending expeditions until they find us. Better to reveal ourselves on our own terms than to be discovered like animals in a den." The Council debated for hours. In the end, no decision was reached. The question of revealing humanity to the galaxy was too important to decide quickly. But time was running out. Launched his expedition 3 months later, 100 ships, the best sensors in the galaxy, orders to find the truth no matter what. And somewhere in the dead zones, a darkness older than any of them was beginning to stir. The ancient warning found in the abandoned library had spoken of the Void Walkers, beings that consumed, beings that destroyed. They had been gone for millions of years. But they were coming back. The first signs appeared at the edge of the galaxy, stars going dark, worlds falling silent. The Council did not notice. They were too focused on the dead zones, on the imaginary threat of surviving humans. They did not realize that the real threat was much, much worse. And by the time they did, it would almost be too late. The Void Walkers came without warning. One moment there was a thriving center of military might. The next moment it was gone, not destroyed, not conquered, just gone, as if something had reached down from the sky and swallowed the entire planet whole. Then the sector fell silent. 4 billion beings vanished overnight. Their worlds remained, but they were empty, hollow. The buildings still stood, the ships still orbited, but there was no one left to use them. The galaxy descended into panic. High Speaker Tailize called an emergency session of the Galactic Council. For the first time in 6,000 years, every species sent their highest leaders. The Great Hall was filled beyond capacity. Fear hung in the air like poison. "Something is destroying us," Tailize announced. His voice trembled. "We do not know what it is. We do not know where it comes from. We do not know how to stop it." "We must fight," declared General of the military. "We will send our fleets to meet this enemy." "How?" asked a delegate from the Outer Rim. "We cannot even find them. They strike and disappear. Our sensors show nothing. Our weapons hit nothing. It is like fighting shadows." "Then we die like cowards, hiding and waiting for our turn." The Council had no answers. Their mighty fleets were useless against an enemy they could not see. Their advanced technology meant nothing against beings that swallowed worlds whole. For the first time in their long history, the great powers of the galaxy were helpless. Far away in the dead zones, humanity watched. Admiral stood in the command center of Haven, surrounded by displays showing the devastation spreading across Council space. 20 worlds had fallen in the past month. The Void Walkers were moving faster now, growing bolder. They were heading toward the center of the galaxy, toward the most populated regions. "The ancient records were true," said quietly. She was 150 years old now, her body frail but her mind still brilliant. "The Void Walkers have returned. They will consume everything in their path." "Can we stop them?" asked. "Perhaps." The records from the ancient civilization contained information about weapons that might work against them. We have been building prototypes based on their designs, but they have never been tested against the real enemy. If we do nothing, the galaxy falls, and then they come for us. Yes, the dead zones will not protect us forever. Turned to Commander, who had led their military forces for decades. "What is the state of our fleet?" 10,000 warships, all equipped with the new weapons. We are ready to fight. 10,000 against something that swallows worlds. We have advantages the Council does not. Our technology is based on those who fought these beings before. Our ships are faster. Our weapons are designed specifically for this enemy. Eyes burned with determination. And we have something else. We have 150 years of anger, 150 years of waiting. The Council threw us into the darkness. Now darkness has come for them. Maybe it is time we stopped hiding. The Council debated through the night. The choice before them was clear. They could stay hidden and watch the galaxy burn. Hopping the Void Walkers would be satisfied before reaching their territory. Or they could reveal themselves, join the fight, and risk everything they had built. In the end, the decision was made by a simple truth. Humanity could not watch billions die and do nothing. They were not built that way. They never had been. "Send a message to the Galactic Council," ordered. Tell them humanity is coming. The message arrived at prime in the middle of an emergency debate. It appeared on every screen in the Great Hall simultaneously. 2 words. We live. Then came images. Human cities spanning 200 worlds, fleets of ships beyond anything the Council had imagined, technology that made their own look primitive, and finally, a face. Admiral standing on the bridge of his flagship. 150 years ago, you exiled our species to die, he said. You threw us into the darkness and forgot about us, but we did not die. We survived. We grew. We built an empire the cosmos never realized. The council chamber was silent. Every delegate stared at the screens in shock. Now darkness has come for you. The Void Walkers are an ancient enemy, older than any of your civilizations. They destroyed the beings who came before us. They will destroy you too, unless you are helped. Paused, his face showed no anger, no triumph, just calm determination. We could watch you die. Many among us believe we should. You cast us out. You called us dangerous and primitive. You sentenced us to extinction. Another pause. But we are not like you. We do not abandon others when they need help, even those who wronged us. The human fleet will engage the Void Walkers in 3 days. We will fight alone if we must, but we would rather fight together. The choice is yours. The message ended. The council erupted in chaos. Who had been preparing his expedition into the dead zones when the crisis began, pushed his way to the front of the chamber. We must accept their offer. Accept help from the species we exiled, General demanded. They will betray us. They could have watched us die. They could have waited until the Void Walkers destroyed us and then claimed our territory. Instead, they offered to fight beside us. Turned to face the full council. Whatever we thought about humans, we were wrong. They are not primitive. They are not dangerous to us. They are the only hope we have. High Speaker Taelize was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. Contact the humans. Tell them we accept. Tell them we will fight beside them. The combined fleet gathered at the edge of space. 10,000 human ships, 50,000 council ships, the largest military force ever assembled in the history of the galaxy. And facing them, moving steadily closer, was a darkness that had destroyed civilizations. Admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Remembrance, named for all those who had died during the exile, named for the promise humanity had made to never forget. Beside him stood Commander and Captain Sora, now Admiral Sora, who had come out of her intelligence work to fight in the final battle. Around them, officers from a dozen human worlds managed systems and weapons and shields. Although the Void Walkers appeared for the first time, they were not ships in any traditional sense. They were entities, vast dark shapes that absorbed light and energy. They moved without engines, without propulsion, sliding through space like creatures of nightmare. All ships prepare to engage, ordered. His voice was calm. Remember what we are fighting for, not just our survival, not just revenge. We fight for everyone, human and alien alike. We fight because that is what humanity does. The battle began. Human weapons were the first to strike. Energy beams based on ancient designs cut into the Void Walkers. For the first time, the dark entities felt pain. They screamed, though no sound carried through space. Their forms twisted and writhed. But they did not fall easily. The Void Walkers struck back. Ships were consumed, swallowed by darkness that expanded and contracted like living things. Council vessels fell by the dozens. Human shields held longer, but even they could not withstand sustained attacks. Focus fire on the central mass, ordered. Draw their attention away from the weaker ships. Human squadrons dove into the heart of the enemy formation. They were faster than anything the Void Walkers had faced before. They struck and vanished, struck again, never staying in one place long enough to be caught. Admiral commanding the Council's remaining forces watched in amazement. How are they moving so fast? Their technology is beyond ours, replied. He was aboard's flagship as an observer. It has been beyond ours for a very long time. Then why did they not conquer us? They could have taken the galaxy easily. Watched a human cruiser sacrifice itself to save a transport ship, ramming into a void walker to give the transport time to escape. Perhaps they never wanted to conquer. Perhaps they only wanted to live. The battle raged for hours. Ships fell on both sides. The void walkers were pushed back, then pushed back again. It was a war of attrition, and both sides were paying a terrible price. Then saw his opportunity. The void walkers had a center, a core entity larger than the others that seemed to coordinate their movements. If it could be destroyed, the rest might fall apart. All human ships form up behind me, he ordered. We are going through the center. That is suicide, Sora said. It is our only chance. The Council ships cannot do this. Only we have the speed and the weapons. If we hit the core hard enough, fast enough, we can end this. No one argued. The human fleet gathered behind the Remembrance and charged into the heart of darkness. They lost ships with every kilometer. The void walkers threw everything they had at them. But the humans did not stop. They could not stop. 150 years of waiting, of building, of hopping. It all came down to this moment. The Remembrance reached the core entity first, activated every weapon on the ship. Ancient designs, built from knowledge found in a dead library on a forgotten world. Energy poured into the darkness. The core screamed. The sound was felt rather than heard, a vibration that shook every ship in the system. The darkness began to crack. Light appeared where there had been none. More power, ordered, everything we have. The ship's reactors went critical. Warning alarms screamed, but no one moved to stop them. They pushed harder and harder, pouring every bit of energy into the attack. The core entity shattered. The explosion consumed the Remembrance and a dozen ships around it, but it also destroyed the heart of the void walkers. Without their coordination, the remaining entities fell into chaos. They turned on each other, or simply drifted, no longer knowing what to do. The combined fleet finished them off. One by one, the void walkers were destroyed. When the last one fell, a silence settled over the battlefield. It was over. The galaxy mourned its dead. Billions had been lost to the void walkers. Entire species had been wiped out. It would take centuries to recover. But they were alive. Against all odds, against an enemy that had destroyed civilizations, they had survived. On Prime, a new memorial was built. It listed the names of every ship that had fought in the final battle, human and alien alike. At the center of the memorial stood a statue of Admiral, his hand raised toward the stars. High Speaker Taileye spoke at the dedication ceremony. 150 years ago, this council made a terrible mistake. We feared humanity. We exiled them to die. But they did not die. They became greater than we ever imagined. And when darkness came, they saved us all. He paused, looking at the human delegation that had come to the ceremony. Admiral Sara was there, along with Commander and hundreds of others. They stood proudly in their uniforms, no longer hiding, no longer afraid. Today, we formally welcome humanity back to the Galactic Council, not as probationary members, not as second-class citizens, as equals, as partners, as the friends we should have been from the beginning. Sara stepped forward to accept on behalf of her people. She thought of who had given his life to end the war. She thought of who had died just before the final battle, but had lived long enough to see humanity reveal itself. She thought of all those who had come before, Admiral and Ambassador, General Wu and the first settlers of Haven, all the generations who had built and prepared and waited. We do not do this for forgiveness, she said. We do not do this for recognition. We do this because it is right, because humanity believes that all beings deserve a chance, even those who wronged us. She looked up at the statue of. We were exiled from the stars. We built a secret empire the cosmos never realized, and when the universe needed us most, we answered. That is who we are. That is who we will always be. The ceremony ended with a moment of silence for all the fallen. Then, slowly, humans and aliens began to talk, to shake hands, to build connections that had been impossible before. In the dead zones, the human colonies continued to thrive. They were no longer hidden, but they remained home. Haven became a symbol of survival and hope. Visitors came from across the galaxy to see what humanity had built from nothing. And in the center of Haven's largest city, another memorial stood. This one listed every human who had died during the exile, every ship lost, every colony that had failed, every sacrifice that had made their survival possible. At the base of this memorial were carved the words that had guided humanity through their darkest years, the words that Admiral had spoken on the day of the exile, the words that had become their promise and their purpose. We will remember, we will return. They had remembered, they had returned. And the galaxy would never forget what they had become.